And today we talk with Dr. Olli Совиярvi. Dr. Olli Совиярvi is a pioneer of holistic medicine in Finland. He has worked at nearly 50 different clinics around Finland. His numerous media appearances, social media articles, and Finland's best health podcast have expanded the general public's awareness of what health care can be. From 2013 to 2018, Dr. Совиярvi practiced medicine at a private clinic that specializes in nutrition and holistic healthcare. A few months ago, he decided to fully commit his energy and effort to Biohacker Center. He's the CEO of the company, and to developing preventive healthcare systems in Finland. He also runs training sessions and presentations on the topics of biohacking, performance optimization, nutritional issues, and maintaining the intestinal balance. In his free time, he enjoys athletics, playing with his child, music, and good humor. Welcome, Dr. Совиярvi. We're very happy to have you on the summit.
Thank you. That was quite an introduction, and I'm pleasure to be here and have this conversation with you.
Thank you. And the topic of our conversation today is biohacking your weight regulation physiology. And this is how I know you, from the Biohacker Summit, which I attended a couple of times and was very impressed. So let's start with a question on what's involved in weight regulation, because most of us know the theory of calories in and calories out, which is basically that the weight is the difference between the calories we ingest and the calories we burn. And we'll come to the theory later, but for now, let's talk about what else is involved in weight regulation besides eating and burning calories.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, the basic conundrum or the consensus has been that if you consume less calories, you would lose weight. That technically speaking is right, but I think there are many contemporary factors that are disrupting these mechanisms, and it would work if we were in a closed calorie box. But there are so many things that we're going to discuss today about the weight regulation and how the brain is actually controlling all of this, and why it's so hard for many to lose weight. So basically, the calorie theory is right, but there are layers on top of that. So just by starving yourself, you're gonna get some results, but eventually it's gonna disturb your own metabolism, and you have to do it very wisely. And yeah.
So what does it start with? What does it start with?
Yeah. So the basic thing to lose weight, you need to be in a small calorie deficit, but not more than like 10 to 15%. I think that is enough. But how you evaluate that, that's the key question, because there are people who overestimate calorie consumption and also people who underestimate the calorie consumption. So you have to actually track what you're putting inside and see if it's close to your goals and how your body is responding for that. So those are like the basic starting points. But the main factors that are controlling the weight regulation are actually in the brain and more precisely in the hypothalamus. So there's this hormone called leptin that's been discovered in 1992, and it has been found to control how much body fat we store and as well how satiated we are. And when the years are gone by, more and more research has been available on leptin. But if you think about the evolutionary standpoint on that, it's unlikely that leptin has evolved to prevent obesity when plenty of palatable foods are available, because they elevate the plasma leptin levels resulting from the increased adipose tissue, for example, in the stomach, do not prevent the development of obesity. So it's basically regulating our eating and our hunger. If you think about the fat storage, then there's insulin, which is probably known everybody, at least should be. So that's our main fat storage hormone. But you can still lose fat if you're on a calorie deficit, even though you would eat like 100% high carb diet. So the problem is high insulin with too high calorie intake. That's like a guarantee for getting obese. Then there is glucagon, which is like the opposite of insulin. So it stimulates the liver to release stored glycogen and works with adrenaline to free up fat stores and usage. So those are like counteracting each other. And then there's ghrelin, and that's actually a hormone that tells us when we are hungry and not. So as you can see, there are like many hormones and many hormones on top of these 4 key hormones that are regulating the system. But basically it's like leptin, ghrelin balance, insulin, glucagon balance. Mm-hmm. So that's highly controlled, and the body has a certain fat set point. So that's how the brain interprets how to eat. Okay, now we have to eat, even though the man would be obese. So the fat set point, it's like the key set point that's all controlling all these hormonal exchanges. So then we have, if you cut down calories, like let's say 500 calories per day minus, if you continue to cut it even more, then there's the starvation response. So that's the increase in the drive to eat and decrease calorie consumption, calorie expenditure. And then there's leptin, negative feedback regulation. So it means that weight loss decreases circulation concentrations of leptin. So that means the starvation response and attempts to bring more calories into the body. So the body is not really wanting to lose weight. So I think this is like the basic mechanisms that we need to understand, that it's not easy to lose weight, but we can go on deeper how we can actually do it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, very good. And yes, so maybe you can talk a little bit more about leptin, because as far as I know, this is the main hormone in our hormonal hierarchy. Is it right? Oh, no.
It's the main hormone that's controlling the body weight and all the feeding and energy expenditure. So the leptin signaling system appears to be mainly involved in maintenance of adequate energy stores for survival during periods of energy deficit. So without leptin, we would simply die if we would eat like a calorie deficit.
So leptin is secreted by the fat cells, right?
Yeah, it's secreted by the fat cells, and then there are like fat sensing cells. So if you think about the adipose tissue, there are white fat cells, like that's like the basic white adipose tissue. But then there are also pink adipose tissue and brown adipose tissue. So those are actually kind of adipose tissue that increase the energy expenditure. So you would want to have more of brown fat instead of white fat. So, but yeah, the basic system is that it's sensing the fat state of the body and then regulates through the brain the secretion.
So then how come obese and overweight people, they have a lot of adipose tissue, and they should have a lot of leptin secreted by the fat cells, and should feel satiety, right? And no urge to eat. So why is this not happening?
Well, it's basically the same thing as happens with insulin. When you have like all the time high blood sugar, then you need insulin, and you're gonna be like bombarding the insulin system so that the cells become actually resistant. So the cells actually become also resistant to leptin. So you can actually speak about leptin resistance here, as you would speak with insulin resistance. And insulin resistance and leptin resistance, they go hand in hand. And this is actually also complemented with cortisol resistance. So cortisol is a stress hormone, And usually when you have high stress, you have cortisol, and then you have probably the cortisol resistance, then insulin resistance and leptin resistance. So when highly stressed, it's virtually almost impossible to lose weight unless you like lower the stress.